Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we return to talking about our favorite cartoon satire TV show and probably one of my favorite entertainment properties of all time. I'm of course talking about South Park. This Comedy Central cartoon animated romp has been on for over 23 years now, and it's not stopping anytime soon. Don't worry. Today we're talking about it getting canceled in one particular country, but it will still be airing throughout the rest of the world as usual. It just got bumped off of the Australian market for some reason. And frankly, I don't think anyone's really 100% sure why. We can have some guesses and some speculations. Australia is a more woke country. They're more left leaning, kind of like how Britain and Canada are. A lot of our sister and brother countries, former British Empire colonial places, most of them are way more woke and left wing than America. America's the cool one. We have cool stuff here. We're awesome. Everyone wants to be here. And basically, South Park was canceled in Australia. We're going to talk more about that. And specifically, I think it's an interesting timing because they just announced their premiere like last week. So we're going to talk about that too. That's really exciting. South Park announced they're going to have a 1-hour premiere at the end of this month, and it's going to be about the pandemic. Now, we can already guess all the jokes that are going to be in there. They had a small trailer that featured some teases. There was Randy Marsh wearing a mask. There was Cartman was saying he doesn't want to go back to school. He doesn't want the pandemic to end because then he'll have to go back to school. There are lots of great jokes in there already, and I imagine this hour-long special is going to be really awesome. And in addition, I think this is what might have scared the people over in Australia. I mean, that's the only new thing that's happened with South Park recently. A few days before they canceled the show, they announced their pandemic special, which is going to be an hour long, which is going to be really cool. And I don't think this has happened before. As long as I remember, they haven't done an hour-long premiere. So I'm excited about that, but we're going to talk more about it soon. We're going to ask why Australia canceled South Park, what the pandemic special might be about, why that might worry a place like Australia. We're going to get into that soon, but first, let's take a quick moment to check out our sponsor. Right now, it's never a better time to support our Second Amendment and our right to bear arms and protect ourselves. I mean, think about all the chaos going on in this country. Now's never been a better time to get yourself some self-defense and exert your Second Amendment right here in the United States of America. And that's why I say we should also get these free gold coins to help represent that. These coins are being given away for free right now for a limited time, only if you click the link below this video. All you have to do is pay for shipping and you'll get these free gold coins with a beautiful weapon embroidered on them, and it's got American flag and a cool quote on the back. It's just really slick, really cool, and you could tell that you're a Second Amendment supporting American patriot. So if you're interested, if you enjoy this country and our rights and our Second Amendment right to bear arms, make sure you check out our exclusive link below and get yourself this free gold coin. All you have to do is pay for shipping. Thanks for your time today, and now back to the show. Great, now that that's out of the way, let's turn to today's article. It's from The Brag. It says, SBS has canceled South Park after 23 years on air. There you can see our buddy Cartman with the smartphone. This just shows me that the show, it keeps up with the times. It's always current events. It's always influenced by stuff going on that year. They have a lot of their own stories too. I mean, all their stories are their own. Sometimes they aren't always influenced by pop culture and current events. That's just one avenue of their entertainment. Sometimes they do little bottle episodes. Sometimes they just talk about something random. And that's the fun about South Park. They're always keeping up with current events. They started back in the late 90s, mid 90s, and now they're still kicking it 23 years later. And apparently SBS is some network in Australia. I'm not super familiar with their TV channels, but it seems like they're getting more woke. They can't handle the whole South Park thing anymore, which is strange since it's been on for 23 years. I mean, they've really crossed the line many times already. I'm not sure where else South Park could go. That's kind of the joke about them now. They've pushed the limit so long. They've gone so far in so many different topics in the way they joke that they can't really do it anymore. It's not the same as back in the old days. Like when South Park first came out, I remember it. It was a smash hit and a news story as soon as it hit TV air. Like right away, people were like, oh my God, should this be allowed? Like, should we be able to have cartoons like this? Like they were just doing little jokes back then too. Like they cursed a little bit. They talked about, dirty things, sex. There was like an anal probe from the aliens, like little things. It was very mild compared to now. Like South Park has the craziest ideas ever, which are great. Like I'm talking about all this in a good way. Like when I say crazy and far out, I mean they're just pushing the line. They're making fun of different races, different religions, different things in the media. Like every president gets ridiculed a little bit. Every single kind of person and group gets goofed on. They talk about hippies. They talk about this group of people, gothic people. And all of this is positive in my interpretation. I'm just kind of giving you an idea of why leftists and these sorts of woke PC police people, why they would be offended. I would never be offended. I think South Park is great and for the greater good too. They're one of the last great commentaries out there, especially in this day and age where other shows that had similar angles before, shows like The Simpsons and even Family Guy and other ones that are still kicking, like they've all kind of cowered and rolled it back. Simpsons has been the one specifically recently like announcing that certain actors aren't going to voice certain characters anymore because they don't want white people voicing minority characters. This happened on Family Guy too. Family Guy canceled one of its main actors that played Cleveland for like many years. All of a sudden that's offensive in current day and age. And that's a whole other story actually. Like that's something I assume South Park might address at some point this season, because in between from their last season, all this stuff happened because of this current year election, the drama. There's all this like BLM stuff going on, and a lot of voice actors started retiring. And that happened at Simpsons and Family Guy, but I highly doubt South Park is going to get involved in any of that woke nonsense. In fact, I think they're going to ridicule it really hard, and it's going to be a great episode one day, but I'm not sure that's going to pop up on the premiere yet. I know they're talking about the pandemic first. They're probably going to try to get some of the biggest stories out of the way, which clearly is this whole health scare that's been spanning across the country and the world, but we'll see what else gets in there. They do have an hour of time to cover, but for now, let's check out this article and see more about why Australia canceled the show. It's the end of an era after a whopping 23 years of shocking viewers and giving us loads of laughs. SBS has today officially canceled cult comedy South Park. The adult and at times controversial animated series by Trey Parker and Matt Stone has been a major part of the Aussie network's programming for 23 seasons since they acquired South Park back in the 90s. According to TV Black Box, SBS has released a statement confirming the news, which read, and before we get to that statement, I'm not sure if I'd call it a cult comedy. I guess maybe because it's not nearly as big and widespread as it was. When South Park originally came out, like I mentioned, in the late 90s, it was one of the biggest hits ever. It was super huge. It turned Matt and Trey into big stars. They starred in a couple movies resulting from that. They were in like Basketball. They got their Orgasmo movie released. They eventually made South Park movie and Team America. I mean, this was a huge hit for them, but it's certainly not the biggest hit anymore. I guess you could call it a cult comedy now, because now it's just mostly legacy fans watching and some new ones coming in here and there because they hear about it on the sides and realize it's like one of the best. But yeah, I could see that, but I don't know, cult comedy kind of sits badly with me, but that's all I have to say. Let's read this announcement. It says, after 23 years, SBS made the decision to let South Park go, okay, it began. So they're starting off with a bit of a joke. They're making fun of Mr. Mackey's okay line. The edgy, irreverent, and often controversial series broke new ground when SBS premiered the cult phenomenon in the late 90s, opening Australian audiences up to a type of humor we'd never experienced before. We look forward to breaking new ground with some original content propositions for SBS Viceland. At the time of acquiring the show, SBS commissioning editor of the time, Mark Atkins, said that no other networks except SBS were willing to take on the groundbreaking and foul-mouthed show, which would later prove to be wildly popular. Okay, so right away, they're not really explaining why. They're just kind of saying that it's getting released. They're not going to show it anymore, but they're not giving a reason. And then they're just trying to say they're going to break new ground with some other original content. Give me a break, man. There's nothing that you're going to come up with that's going to top anything close to South Park. I mean, this new season I'm predicting is going to be totally legit. This is like a preface episode for that for us. And I think it's going to be so good. There's so much to talk about this year. We already covered the pandemic and the voice actors retiring. I'm sure BLM could come up again. Other things going on in video games. There's 2 new systems this year. I assume that could get mentioned. People always talk about that on South Park. They always mention like the new Nintendo, the new PlayStation, the handhelds. Like they always get in on video games. So this is a great year for the show. And the fact that SBS thinks they could top it and move forward, breaking new ground, like you're not going to be able to break any ground that South Park hasn't done in the last 23 years. And this whole justification, it's really not sitting well with me either. It sounds just like they're trying to play it off and they have some more political reasons in the background. That or or they may just be broke. They're sure it costs them a lot to host it. They have to pay for the rights to get it from South Park and Comedy Central from another country. So it's possible it's monetary, but I think it's politically influenced too. And we should note this is a late announcement. I mean, they could have told you this before, and all of a sudden they're saying it a few days after South Park announces a pandemic episode. So it makes you kind of think. Comedy Central couldn't get meetings with 10, with 7. Nobody would return their calls. It's not like a lot of people were putting their hands up, he explained. After that, when all the other networks started knocking and they could have sold the program on to someone else, probably for more money, they decided to stick with SBS because we'd work with them when nobody else would take their calls. He continued, everybody was talking about it, and all these people who had never watched SBS before started tuning in, and through that, finding out what else was on the network. So I'm not sure why he's taking this stroll down memory lane. I think he's trying to justify the cancellation and make it not look as bad, talking about how they were the first channel to pick it up back then, but it doesn't really work now. I mean, it's great that you did it and you were the first channel, and maybe that was true back then with Australia. They weren't ready to pick up this edgy show, but 23 years later, and that's not even close. Like, everyone's going to be dying to pick it up now. South Park's going to have the pick of the litter as far as channels in Australia. I'm sure they're all fighting over it right now. I mean, it's a hugely successful channel with a long back catalog. Anybody that picks up the rights to it is going to make good money in Australia. I'm not sure where SBS is going, if it's like they're running out of money or they're trying to get woke and like more mainstream or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised, because that's what's happening with a lot of comedy channels. In fact, that's what's happened with Comedy Central, South Park's home original channel in America. They've gotten really, really woke lately. And sometimes I'm actually surprised South Park is still hosted by them. But here's the point. Comedy Central, the rest of their network is all woke now. They always have leftists hosting shows. They've had these shows called Problematic, and The Daily Show has become a total liberal cesspool. And that's the direction of the whole network. But they have to keep South Park around because it's still their biggest show. It's the longest running show. I mean, maybe The Daily Show could be considered their flagship show because it's got a host and it's more official and it's not like a cartoon. And they had this whole, Jon Stewart was like their main figurehead of Comedy Central for a long time. But now they have Trevor Noah for 5 years. He's not funny. He's terrible. He's this woke minority, like mixed black guy from Africa who comes here and hates on America every day. Like, he's the worst dude. He's just like super, super anti-white and American, and he just hates on us. He doesn't even tell jokes that much anymore. He's a disgrace to Jon Stewart. And it just goes to show how far gone Comedy Central has, but they've still kept South Park up. So God bless them. I'm not going to go too hard on them, because as long as South Park is still up, Comedy Central is going to be having a soft spot for us. They have some other classic shows over the years too. So they've done good work by keeping that, but I think it's kind of like they keep that despite their whole new trend. Like they probably would rather not have a show like them because they want shows they could control and push their messages through. And South Park isn't one of them. And I think that's part of the reason Australia has backed away. And that's why this whole announcement is happening. It's because, South Park is great. They have a new season coming. It's going to really rip on some interesting stuff this year. And it's a touchy feeling year. It's very, very dramatic. Stuff is going on. People are, rioting a lot. I'm sure that's something they'll address. The pandemic is getting addressed. It's going to be awesome. So despite the silly Australia canceling story, but nevertheless, we're going to watch it. And I'm sure Australians will still find a way to watch it either online or another channel will pick it up. So that's about it. I'm excited for the premiere next week. Tell me if you're excited by commenting below. Also, hit that like button if you're ready for the South Park premiere next Wednesday. It's going to be awesome. Let's see if we can get, say, 2,000 or 3,000 likes to show how excited we are for South Park. That'll get me really amped up to start reviewing their videos and their episodes, because I'm going to continue the South Park Explained series as planned, starting with a review of that pandemic episode next week. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching today. Have a great day. Subscribe if you're new, and until next time, take care.